Hi everyone, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Shannon and I live here in Central West New South Wales. My channel is called Colour City Textiles and I welcome you here to actually view some of my videos. Thank you so much for joining me. If you would like to like and subscribe to my videos when they come out, that would be greatly appreciated. Help me grow this channel and show you guys what I do here. And also, if you would like to buy me a coffee, please feel free to follow the link below and show your support in that way. Being the super organised person that I am, I realised this week that my daughter's occupational therapist was going on maternity leave and I haven't made anything or bought anything for her first baby. So now we're in panic mode, trying to think of what we can do to actually make her a baby welcoming gift. She doesn't know what she's having, so that makes it a little bit trickier because you need to think of a pattern that's going to be suitable for boy or a girl, or just a unisex pattern, something that's not too masculine looking, not too feminine looking, so not lots of lace, and colour you've got to think of as well. I am going to be knitting her a couple of bonnets, I'm hoping. So I was looking through my stash. I came up with a couple of yarns that I could use. I didn't want to use a skein that I hadn't opened yet. I wanted to use what I already had that was halfway ready to go. I have this one here, which was a Corriedale that I've knitted. It's about a fingering weight Corriedale. It's got a little bit more grey in it than what I'd like, so it's sort of to me it didn't sort of feel baby for me. And then when I found this cake or this ball of wool that I've actually made up, and there's a lot in here as well. So I did a wraps per inch for this yarn. It came out at about a 14, so that is between a fingering and a sport weight. So I'm thinking if I'm careful, I knit the newborn size, then this should be acceptable, or not acceptable, but it should be appropriate for a newborn or at least a 3-month-old coming, especially in this weather as well. It's going to be freezing cold, and so you're going to want something covers the ears and stays on as well. So I really like the bonnets that have the strings coming down off them. Some people might say, well, it's a choking hazard for children, so don't have anything with strings on. However, babies constantly are taking things off their heads, constant. The only thing that I found with my younger daughter that would stay on her head was a bonnet, because she also had a smaller head. So it was just a lot more difficult finding things that actually fit her and would actually stay on. And the bonnet was the only thing that she actually had that she would keep on her head, and it kept her ears nice and warm. And they just look so nice. So looking forward to knitting this. I'm hopefully going to get it done over the course of a weekend, provided I find the right pattern. Now, I was actually thinking about patterns and what ones I could use, so I was doing a search through Ravelry. I did want a free pattern because I don't really make any baby clothes anymore and I have no inclination to have any more children. So because of that, I wanted to get a free pattern. I have nothing against buying Ravelry patterns or patterns from designers. I think it's really, really good to support our designers in the knitwear community. However, in this case, I just really need something that was a free pattern. I don't really have much in the way of money's getting a little bit tight because I've got rego and things coming up. So because of that, I just need something that was free. I can start knitting with it straight away and just get it done. And also that's part of the reason why I'm going through and looking for things out of my stash that I can use. So as I was looking through patterns, I found there was the Marius bonnet. There was a couple of other patterns as well, but I think I'm going to start with the Marius bonnet, see how I go with that, and then we will see how much time I've got and how we go working through things. My husband actually did say, oh, if you're making some bonnets, can you make one for my friend in Western Australia as well? So I'll have to check with him and see how old the baby is now, and also where they live in Western Australia. If they're up north, they've got no need for a bonnet. It's going to be hot. So so we'll have to just wait and see I'll have to find some more information, but that's going to be the last one on my list. I need to get these done. Feel horrible enough as it is not having actually made anything yet. So we will just plow on and get this done. In the end, I've had to do a couple of swatches. Swatching is really, really important when you're working with hand spun yarn because you need to get the gauge for your pattern. Otherwise, your pattern will end up being really big, or too small, or lumpy and bumpy. It might not work well with if you've got lace or if you've got cabling in your pattern. So it's really, really beneficial to do some swatches just to make sure that the fabric feels really nice when you're knitting your pattern. So these were the first swatches I did. Now this bottom section was done using a needle size lower than the pattern called for. The pattern called for a 3mm needle, and down the bottom here is a 2.75mm needle. If the fabric felt a bit stiff, now the WPI, or wraps per inch, of this yarn ended up coming out at a 14. So this was sort of a sport weight. Now the pattern wanted 26 stitches for every 10 centimeters, or 26 stitches per 4 inches. So I knitted it in the 2.75mm needle. The fabric felt a bit stiff, so I thought, I'm just going to try with the 3mm needle and see how that feels. The fabric itself still felt a little bit stiff, but it felt a whole lot better than the original I did try with the 2.75. I washed the swatch and then I measured how many stitches I had. Now at the top here I had 23 stitches per 10 centimeters or 4 inches. Down the bottom I had 24 stitches. So I was 2 stitches short of where I needed to be. So that meant either I went down another needle size and then the fabric would be even stiffer and harder to work with, or I could change my yarn, or I could change my pattern, because obviously here the yarn was going to be way too thick, so that's why the fabric was ending up being stiff and my gauge was off. So I went rummaging through my stash, looking at what I could use, and I found this yarn here that I'd hand spun. Now this particular yarn, I made little labels for my yarn a little while ago. So it was merino. I'm pretty sure it's merino tops from Nundle here. It's a 3-ply, and I would say this is more a fingering weight rather than a sport weight, because when I compared it to some of my commercial fingering weight yarns or 4-ply yarns, it was actually about the same as those. So I knitted this swatch. I knitted it with a 3mm needle. It still came out at 24 stitches, so I just went down to a 2.75mm needle instead and started knitting with that, and the fabric actually feels a lot more workable, and definitely not as stiff as this fabric over here. This fabric just really, it just didn't feel good, whereas this feels a lot more softer, it's going to be a lot nicer next to a baby's skin than this one here, because we're making the bonnet, remember. Now, I'll pop those away now. I did start knitting it yesterday. I did change the pattern I was going to use, so I was initially going to use the Marius bonnet, but instead I've gone to a different pattern. So the pattern I'm now using is this one. I don't speak Belgian or French, so I'm not even going to try and interpret that. So beautiful pattern. It's very easy so far. There are a couple of bits in there where I've had to stop and think about what they're needing, and I think it's going to be the same when I get to doing the bottom band around the bottom here. Now I did actually prefer this one because it had an I-cord tie that goes underneath the bonnet rather than a button. The Marius bonnet had a button that went underneath the baby's head, and I just prefer a tie because I think that if you just do a loose bow, it will keep it on the baby's head, but yet it can easily be taken off in the case of an emergency, whereas a button you might have shaking hands, it might be fiddly, it might be too stretched for you to get the button off safely. So I don't feel comfortable giving a button bonnet for babies. That's just my personal opinion, my personal preference. So you can see here I've been knitting. It is lovely, it's beautiful, it's going to be really, really cool to knit with. I've gotten to a stage here where I can't actually knit anymore with the round, and my needle, it was worked flat for the first bit, then I've had to join in the round for the back of the bonnet. The needle is too short to work with a magic loop, and I don't really want to go down to a shorter loop because the back of the bonnet's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So I'm going to end up having to do magic loop at some point, unless I had the circular 4 needles, which I don't personally like working with because they slip out of my yarn too easily, and then I'm ending up having to try and find needles left, right and centre. So I'm going to switch this to a longer cord with the 2.75 needles on the end, and then I'm going to just do magic loop, the magic loop method for the rest of it. And yeah, so I'm up to pretty much, I don't know whether you can see it on black and white, so I'm up to this bit here now where I'm now going to start working on the decreases for the back of the bonnet. So I'm going to keep on knitting. I should have this done in I should have the back of the bonnet done in maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depending on how many distractions I have. Maybe it could be tomorrow, depending on whether I procrastinate or not. So I've got here 2 baby bonnets. So we've got here this first one. I finished the I-cord bind off. The I-cord actually went, you start on one end of the I-cord, you worked your way up, you picked up the stitches and worked the band around the bottom of the bonnet, and then you worked the I-cord down the other side, so it all worked sort of in one piece, and it finished it off quite nicely. This is the bonnet that's going over to WA. It's going over for a little girl. I made it in the next size up because she's 2 months at the moment, and I know they go through a bit of a big spurt, so I thought if I make it a little bit bigger, then she can wear it all the way up to September. This one's actually my 3rd bonnet that I ended up making. I made the first one and I gave it to the occupational therapist, and she'd had the baby that Sunday, so it was a very, very well appreciated present. And you can see here, last time the video was rolling, I hadn't gone up to the back of the beanie yet, but you can see you end up having this lovely spiral pattern on the back, which ends up sitting quite nice and flat. So it's going to be nice against the back of a baby's head. You don't really want a big seam running down the middle of it or anything that's going to sit and be uncomfortable for them. So you can see here, this 3rd one's actually going to be going off to a friend who's having her 3rd baby in Young, who I found out this week. So my husband said, while you're knitting bonnets, can you make me another bonnet? And I said, yes, sure, I can make you another bonnet. So we've got here one going off to WA, one going to Young, and another one's being enjoyed by a little baby boy that the occupational therapist had. So thank you for joining me on this journey here. I've still got to weave in all my ends, but on the whole, that's not really a big job to do. So thanks again for joining me. If you can like and subscribe to this video, and if you would like to buy me a coffee, that would be very much appreciated. All right, bye everyone, until next time. Bye.